On this episode of the Neo Marketing Podcast, we're going to explain the differences between marketing, PR, advertising, and other forms of business communication.
Yeah, buddy.
Welcome to the weekly Neo Marketing Podcast, featuring one half of the Golden Goose C-Suite, Kyle Golding, and Pritch, APR, PRSA Fellow. Good morning, Pritch. How are you today?
Good morning. Great, Kyle. How about yourself?
Fantastic. Ready for a very nice, robust conversation. One of my pet peeves, one of my professional pet peeves, are people confusing definitions of what they do, specifically in communication. Number one being the difference between the term marketing and advertising.
Yep.
Marketing is the work before the work. It's the work you do in order to understand your strategy, your position, all these other things, so that you can then create advertising. You can create advertising, other types of communication, including PR, internal communication, etc. Right? So let's start at the beginning. Advertising is not marketing.
Right.
Advertising is the outward expression of your marketing efforts. Advertising is the execution. It's the one-way conversation. It's standing on a street corner and yelling at people about your product or service. That's what advertising is. And that's great and good and fine. Now, we focus on marketing. We do a ton of marketing, right? Because we love strategy.
Right.
So marketing starts with strategy. It starts with your research. It starts with your positioning, your strengths and weaknesses, how you compete with your competition, etc., which all comes together into how you're going to market your business, product, service to the public, to the consumer, to the person most likely to say, yes, I need to give you some money for that, right?
Right.
So that's the work before the work. That's marketing. The other difference between marketing and advertising is marketing is a two-way conversation. Marketing,
Should be.
Right?
Right.
Specifically, creating ideas, concepts, connections, audience, etc., that you put out into the world via advertising, PR, other types of communication, and then measuring and adjusting based on the audience reaction. It's not just do it once, let it go. You expect your marketing plan to need adjustment. So if anyone ever writes you a marketing plan, says, here, do this, you'll be fine, I'll call you in a year.
Right.
Yeah, they're really screwing you over on that.
Right.
It's a continual process, right? That's the two-way conversation part, is the information back from your audience, the things that they react well to, the things that they don't react well to, the things that people say, that's great, I'm going to buy, the people that say, I don't really think you're not delivering on what you promise, etc., the actual real-world interactions, and finally, how you make the sale, right? Conversion, whether it converts or not. If it doesn't convert, it doesn't matter.
Right.
That is the two-way conversation for marketing. That you go back, make your adjustments, and then you change your advertising, PR, etc., to approach differently because of the information that you took in via marketing.
Right. That's interesting, because I think what you've done in defining marketing that way has brought that side of the aisle a lot closer to what I consider the role of public relations.
Right.
And the only differentiation in my mind, because public relations about relationships is about your strategy. It's about understanding your audience. It's about understanding your competition. It's the research before you put the plan together.
It's understanding who you are as well.
Exactly. And then it's the feedback, the measurement and evaluation that feeds back into it. The only difference I see between the way you define marketing and the way I define public relations is the end purpose.
Yes.
And those can get really close together as well, because if you consider an idea as a product,
right,
then in public relations, often we're working with trying to get people to accept an idea, change their behavior, like health communication, for example. How do you get people to stop smoking, right? So when we start talking about ideas, now we really drawn those two professions a lot more closely together.
Which is why they collaborate and coexist.
They should, yeah,
right?
as long as somebody doesn't want to own the world, right?
Exactly. You have to have big picture thinking, concept, the idea and identity of your business or your entity, what it is you're trying to accomplish. But you also need very specific actionable conversion items at the same time.
Right.
And it all collaborates together. So it's big
right.
picture, small picture, daily, weekly, monthly, yearly, the brand as a whole.
Absolutely.
Speaking of brand.
Yes.
So people also confuse the term branding.
Right.
A lot of people would say, oh, we need to brand or rebrand. We need branding for our company, right?
Right.
And in their mind, what they're picturing is a logo.
Right.
Which is a singular
color palette, maybe.
Yes, right. It's a singular aspect of branding. Branding as a general, the idea of creating a brand for your business is to, at the same time, set yourself apart from the competition as you are attracting your most likely audience. That's the effort of branding. That's the role of branding.
Defining yourself,
yes.
Understanding yourself.
Your position versus the competition.
The outward expression thereof.
Yeah. It's the execution of that as succinctly as possible. Thus, you begin to get into logos, slogans, cut lines, etc., because that's the succinctness part of it. That's the very specific part of it. And then the idea that carries forward. Because your brand is also not just logo, color palette, but your tactics, your mood, your style, your delivery methods, all of the things, every decision you make when you represent the brand comes from the branding process.
Right.
So if someone says, I'll brand your business for $500, and they're delivering you 3 logos you choose, and even, this is one too where people screw up. If someone gives you 3 completely different logos that you're supposed to choose from your branding, they've already screwed you.
Right.
Because it's not about 3 completely different ways to do business. If you understand who you are, your position, your audience, your connection to them,
right,
you should have 3 very similar executions that are very different in the minute details. Because the overall idea, is it serious? Is it funny? Is it active? Is it passive? Is it for older people, younger people?
Right.
Is it all of those things should be similar enough that the execution, the brand itself, the logo, shouldn't be wildly disparate. Or else the person designing those logos are just making stuff up. They're not
don't
understand
the situation.
That's graphic design. That's not branding.
Right.
And I'm not picking on graphic designers and saying that's not important, but the branding is, again, the work before the work.
Right.
You should never start about talking about a logo, a cut line, what's your TV commercial is going to look like until you've done the branding part of the marketing work. The marketing research and positioning and knowing your audience, etc., then goes into how you create your branding. That brand is then funneled down into your execution, your logo, your cut line, etc., your all of these things. And now it's very simple to make your tactical decisions, which is advertising, and PR, etc.
Well, now you threw PR back in the mix as a
always
tactic.
in there.
It is.
It is.
But it's a lot more than that. It's in terms of marketing and advertising, earned media is a tool, very important tool that supports that process. But it's just one tool in the toolbox.
Absolutely.
There's a whole bunch of other tools in there too.
For sure.
And again, I go back to relationship. I think we really did ourselves a disservice by calling it public relations. It should be public relationships.
I agree with that.
That's tough because how do you put a value on a relationship? But if you don't have that relationship, then nothing else you do matters.
Right.
It's conversion. One of my pet peeves, talking about professional pet peeves, is PR being thrown into that mix as a singular tool when there are so many other tools available in the toolbox that people would just take the time to talk about it, think about it, understand it.
Which is also why you can't start with PR the way you also can't start with advertising, anything else. You have to start with your marketing because it informs the decision-making process of your public relations campaigns.
Yeah, it's the research.
From the same core.
It's got to come from the same core, absolutely.
The last thing that people do wrong, they get confused, is they put the sales process in here too. They say, hey, we spent $10,000 on marketing and our sales didn't go up. Well, there's a lot in between marketing and advertising that creates attention, that creates the opportunity, and then there's conversion.
Right.
There's the actual sales process. Now, sometimes it's easy. It's an online process. Click a button, get it. Right? Click a button and Amazon will bring it right to your doorstep, right? It's a very easy process. Sometimes you have to go physically to the store, to the car lot, to the place, or you have to fill out a form, or you have to do whatever it is to buy the product or engage in the service, and that's the sales process. The failure happens in if you rely only on your marketing and advertising, and so essentially the salesperson is standing there like, hey, Can I take your order? You want fries with that, right? That's
Can I supersize it?
Exactly. They could screw up the sale. And so your marketing worked up to that point, and then the failure happened in the sales process.
Right.
If your salespeople are informed about your marketing efforts, they understand the brand, they understand the communication that you're putting out in all your channels,
right,
so that when the consumer comes to them and says, hey, I want to do business with you, and here's why, because I like your quality, I like your service, I heard this about you, I know you do this in the community, etc.
Right.
Then the salesperson can say, that's exactly right, and here's why you need to buy XYZ through this process at pay this much, and you do the actual conversion, the actual execution of the sale. That has to happen in order for you to get the economic indicator at the end of the month, right? That sales went up or sales went down.
Right.
So marketing could work as well as it possibly could, and you still could see your sales go down if your sales team and that sales process isn't connected to the entire communication process.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
So that's a whole lot in just a few minutes. In about 10 minutes, we covered a lot of things that come and go when it comes to the communication process. These are this is the top level. We're talking about definitions, so it's pretty basic. If you guys have questions,
would love to hear.
Or if you think we're wrong about any of this, by all means, bring it on and let's see what happens. But I'd rather have a great conversation with you about how you could take these ideas and drill much deeper into what your product or service is. So hit us up on social media. We appreciate you guys listening every time. In fact, we're almost a year into the Neo Marketing Podcast. So we appreciate you guys for being with us this last year. Until next time, good luck.
Ciao. Yeah.
And I was like, oh.
No worries.